Good evening, everyone. My name is Blaysen and today on 60 Minute News, we have a special guest with us, Truman Capote, author of the novel In Cold Blood, which is a story about the beloved Clutters who got brutally murdered in their home. I believe that out of all of our guests, this will be the most interesting to interview. Now I would like to welcome Truman Capote.
Hello.
So, Truman, how was your flight into LA?
Well, it was good. It was a little bumpy, but the people of LA who welcomed me, I like it. It's really nice. Yeah.
That's good. How have you been?
Very good. Just a little bit shocked at the murders and just the recent execution of Perry and his friend, who's a total jerk. But yeah.
How have you been coping with the death of Perry?
It's okay. We were really close. It was just reporting a story, so I would say, because I'm gay. Yeah. I'm gay, so when I feel really bad for what happened, and I didn't want him to look like a monster.
You're sensitive.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways,
your new book, In Cold Blood, has caught national attention about the Clutter family murders in West Kansas. So, would you like to tell us briefly about it?
Oh, In Cold Blood, my finest work. Well, the book, it's a nonfiction novel, but it takes place in West Kansas. It's about the Clutter murders, and I heard about this in a newspaper. So I decided to go out there. It was about a time where, when Dick and Perry were about ending their chase and they're being caught, about to be executed, I wanted to report this story. So I went to Kansas, researched it, followed the exact same footsteps as both the criminals and the detective. I found it very, very sad what happened. And yeah.
Okay. On another note, many critics are astounded about the way you wrote the nonfiction novel for reasons being that you were close or sympathetic towards Perry Smith. Can you enlighten us on that note?
Oh, no. Well, of course I wasn't sympathetic. I wouldn't call it sympathetic. The family had experienced the worst possible thing ever. And I didn't think that it was nice to glorify Perry. But he did have a heart, and people around America didn't recognize that. But just researching his childhood, his parents were divorced. They were divorced, and he was traumatized by that. I talked to him in jail, and especially on top of the fact that he was going to be executed. So I think that Perry, I felt bad for him for what he had done. Obviously, he was guilty, but Perry was in the place he was at because of his decisions. Even though he did crash his motorcycle, and he was in the hospital for almost a year. He never had a really strong family connection. All of his siblings had died, suicide, except for one, Barbara. And try to get a hold of her. There was very little family connection, almost no love in that family.
Now, on that note, do you believe Perry deserved to die?
Well, we live in the justice system of America where the crime was committed by the criminal, obviously, but the jury is the people, and they decide what is right. And in Kansas, execution is capital punishment. So I think that going back to Perry's life as a person, and as the fact that he was just terrible childhood, maybe he didn't really deserve what happened to him with the execution, but the people decided that was worthy. And I think that Perry didn't really get a fair hand in life.
Okay, now, from what you've said about his... Do you need a tissue?
No. Okay.
Are you sure? I can go get you one.
Okay.
Here, let me get you a tissue. Okay, thank you all for waiting patiently. We just had a little moment there.
Yeah, you should be learning because I'm very sensitive about what happened. I was at the execution, so you wanted me there. Had to be there for him.
Yeah, but we're back and ready to go. So we have one last question for Mr. Capote. We're all aware that you're very informed about his troubled childhood life. So do you think that if he lived an easier life, he would have committed the murders?
Well, you damn my mind because you take someone who was totally almost paralyzed because of the motorcycle accident, and he had suffered from pain in his knees and his legs. That even when he was stressed out, according to Dewey, the detective, during the interrogation he was favoring his legs because when he was revealed the fact that he had killed these people and they knew, he was just in pain, so much pain. Throughout his life, he just experienced this pain, and all he wanted to do, the reason why he was in that pain was because he had that accident. And it was because he was trying to visit his dad, who they were just totally distant from each other. Their family is just shattered to pieces. But, back to your question, yes, I believe that if he had been raised in a clutter family, in the ideal clutter family where it was the American family, that was just the dream, I believe that yes, he wouldn't have done it. In fact, he would have looked up to Mr. Clutter. If he had known him better, he would have looked up to Mr. Clutter and made a difference in his life. So, unfortunately, this is the world we live in, and you can't change anything about that. So, I want to thank you for letting me be on your show.
I'd like to thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
And now let's take it to our correspondent, Kaitlyn Tran, who's in San Francisco interviewing a special guest, Barbara Johnson, Perry's sister.
Thank you, Blaysen. I'm in San Francisco with Perry's sister, Barbara Johnson. Thank you for coming to talk to us, Barbara. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking.
From reading Truman's In Cold Blood, readers understand that you don't like your brother, Perry. In fact, you loathe each other. Please explain to viewers what exactly happened between you and your brother.
Perry was a no-good thief, and no matter how many times I tried talking to him, I could never get through to him, so ultimately he got what he deserved.
After reading Truman's novel, how do you feel about the way he described your brother? Many people say it seemed as he pitied him. You mean, you must have a different perspective of Perry.
Truman, in my opinion, had an unprofessional relationship with Perry, and he took pity on him in ways that he shouldn't have. For example, in page 107 of the novel, he described Perry's terrible childhood and his run-in with the nuns and his nightmares. We had the same childhood, we're from the same family, but yet he made the whole public feel bad for Perry.
Did you ever feel sorry for your brother? I mean, Truman's interpretation of the situation made it seem as if Perry was the good guy, and it wasn't really his fault. In fact, it was Dick's fault for making him do it.
I do feel bad for him, that no matter how many times I pleaded with him, saying, Perry, this isn't right, you can still change. He didn't change, and so, in the end, he got the result that he deserved.
Thank you for talking with us, Barbara. Back to you, Blaysen.